We've been doing it for a
Oh,
while.
do tell.
Yeah, I'll try not to dump it over in your lap.
Oh,
She's
that's
worried.
not what I thought he meant.
I know, right? It could have gone several ways.
Ricardo, how are you?
Get your choice today.
I feel safe in either chair, just for the record. My goal is to get
Yeah.
All right, it is 1 o'clock. Call this meeting to order. This is the regularly scheduled BET meeting for Tuesday, March the 7th. Looks like all offices are represented by their primary. Notice the meeting was properly posted Thursday, March 2nd. Item number 1, approval of the minutes of February 7th and the special meeting on February 14th. Do we have a motion on either of those? Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the minutes from February 7th and February 14th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Item 2, discussion possible action regarding an update on employee benefits. Mr. Wilkerson.
Sure. As of the 6th, we're still trending up. We're about $2.8 million over where we were last fiscal year. An update on this month, we're receiving RX rebate, $868,000. I filed February COVID claims for $111,000. So if we allocate early, deposit that, we can pay everything we're holding through today, this month. The bad news is March is a long month. We receive a medical register, check register every Thursday. So there's 5 Thursdays this month. So we get a kind of an extra one. So we'll receive one on 3/9, 3/16, 3/23, and 3/30, which we won't have enough money to pay because we have enough money to pay with the RX rebate and everything combined, what we're holding. So we might have to ask for more money next month. We'll just see how these come in and what the amounts are before we do that. So that's where we're at right now.
What's the trend?
Trend for it's 8.9% for medical and 26% for prescriptions.
And the trend of claims that you're seeing?
Yeah, it's about 8.9 for medical.
I think what Rick's getting at is, we're in the middle of the fiscal year. Are we trending down now or leveled out? Or are we?
It's kind of a mixed bag because we receive a check register every week, and when comparing those to last fiscal year, we're about 51,000 more per week than we were last fiscal year. The first of this year, we had a big check register for $1 million, so that kind of impacted this fiscal year for sure. Because sometimes we have them as low as 200,000. So the ones we're seeing in recently are still coming above last fiscal year. We've had some a little below last fiscal year. Our average was 325 per week, 325,000 per week last fiscal year. We're averaging about 376,000 per week, so more. So we're just gonna have to see how the rest of March comes out. Hopefully those trend down.
I know we had at least medical. I don't know if it was prescription, but a payment push from last year into this fiscal year. Correct?
Yeah.
You recall how much that was?
It's like 716,000.
Okay.
So it brings it down, but we just don't have enough cash available right now.
Right.
The good news is we get that prescription rebate this month, get that deposited. We're going to allocate deposits early. We'll get that COVID reimbursement. So that'll pay for everything we're holding right now. We're just going to have to see what the next few weeks come in as. Because deposits are usually, the county portion goes in on the first of the month, 1.5, and then we get deposits. So we might probably have to allocate early next month and maybe get a small amount. I might have to request a small amount, just seeing, but I have to wait to see what claims come in, if that makes sense, because I don't know what they're going to come in as. So I'll give an update as soon as I receive it after March claims come through. And then in June, the good news is we'll get another prescription rebate, so that'll help us get to that point. I'm expecting claims to come down because I'm not seeing really any huge cases. It's all the small stuff, knee surgeries, heart stuff, stuff that people get that they won't need again, but it's just a high utilization period this fiscal year.
Well, John, I know you're the one that gets the questions asked.
Yeah.
But I think we all understand you're not driving any of these numbers, you can't really do much to control other than what you've done in the past, which is looking for cost-saving measures. And I think you've done a really good job at that. So when we ask questions and stuff, don't think we're shooting at
Oh,
you,
yeah.
because we understand it's our population that is driving these costs. It's not you, and we're trying to get healthier. And so I think what Rick's point was, we need to look at two things. First is the cash flow to make sure that we're able to cover the bills as they come in, but we also need to be tracking the trends to see, is this something that is going, up, or are we leveling out, so that we know not just do we need more money infused to the benefits account because of a cash flow issue, or do we need a significant amount more because of utilization? That's right. So
That's true. So luckily, we've been able to absorb some of that increase through the rebates. So we'll just keep a track on the check registers coming in this month and seeing where they come in at, for sure. And then I'll be meeting with all the elected officials' offices on some cost-saving programs from 7-1, some true immediate cash savings, which will be good. But more to come on that stuff. So,
and I know last month you referenced a rebate check coming this month on prescription. That's the one that you were talking about that's not reflected in here currently.
correct. Yeah, we should receive it at the end of this week.
Any questions? Not, is there a motion to receive a report?
So moved.
Second.
Got a
Thank
motion
you.
and a second to receive a report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you.
Item 3, discussion and possible action regarding any items currently on the BET watch list. Is there anything on here that needs addressed now, other than juvenile as an item, but they have a specific agenda item to discuss? Something? Is there anything else?
I would just,
You still have some on there for $1 million.
okay.
Okay, seeing no discussion, no action needed on item 3. Item 4, discussion possible action regarding a request from Oklahoma County Election Board for supplemental funding in an amount not to exceed $189,222. This is to cover the upcoming cost of special election that will be held Tuesday, April the 4th.
So we were able to use a lot of that leftover funds to cover today's election. And we also were able to cover the van rentals for all 3 months with that additional funds too. So this is basically just precinct official ballots and then just friendships. So I've tried, but ballot cost is gonna be high this time as well. So.
Are there any questions? Kelly, thank you for the information. Thank you for keeping us in the loop throughout this whole process. It's something we've been tracking since September.
Yeah,
So really appreciate you
it's not
staying on
something
top
we
of
want
this.
to do, but
Yeah,
there it is, so.
right. Okay. Is there any discussion on item 4? Not, is there a motion?
Motion to approve $189,222 for the election board.
And recommend it to the budget board.
Is there a second?
Second.
You got a motion and a second to recommend approval of a transfer of $189,222 from general fund reserve. I mean, it's not listed in here, but I'm assuming that yours is
Yes.
from general fund
Well,
reserve
recommendation from us,
Yeah.
from reserve.
to the election board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
One quick question.
Yeah.
On the watch list, we have 240. Am I leaving the balance in that column on the
I
watch
don't
list?
think
or
we
does
would
this
need to,
cancel
would
it
we?
out?
No, that's why we've tried to keep it as down. This is just the final number that we're at.
So I'll cancel that.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kelly. All right, item number 5, discussion possible action regarding juvenile bureau watch list items, including a potential recommendation for funding from general fund reserve to detention salaries not to exceed $325,000. Hannah?
So I got some handouts for you, just so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. On,
Let's go ahead and get a motion to receive the document.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second to receive the document. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so, all right.
So I gave you, 3 different pages. The first one is our salary projections, which you guys have had on the watch list for a couple of months now. I think I'm gonna make it in detention fringe, bureau salary, and bureau fringe, just because in bureau especially, I can move money back, between those two if I need some. But in detention salaries is really where I'm gonna have a large deficit. I've estimated my remaining, throughout the rest of the fiscal year, being conservative, but, I think I'm gonna need about 300,000, which is less than what I have on the watch list for both budgets right now. But I think I'll need roughly 300. I don't have to have that funding today. We're not gonna run out until, we get closer to June. But I just wanted to give you guys an update on that. And if you are interested in funding or not, or if you wanna keep it on the watch list, I'm at about 300,000 on salaries. One thing I also wanted to bring to
Can I
your,
ask you a question before we get off that? Just to refresh our recollection, and so everybody's on the same page, this 300,000 that's on here, this is directly related to the previously approved
raises.
that were given last year that
Correct.
were not annualized.
Correct.
We only gave you the extra money for part of the year.
Yes.
Correct.
And I was able to recoup last year quite a bit of that due to vacancies. Thankfully, knock on wood, we are fully staffed just about. So we have not had the churn and vacancy rate that we did last year. Even sitting today before our next academy, we only have 2. So we've been fully staffed, which has been really a game changer for us as far as programming in the detention center, as far as our turnover. I mean, Bruce can tell you our turnover is next to nothing because we're fully staffed. People aren't getting burnt out. They're enjoying the scheduling, and we're doing really, really well staffing wise. So that's been a huge blessing for us. So while it's been difficult on the budget side, it's been for our programming for the kids. It's been a huge, huge benefit for us.
What's the starting page, is that your
341694.
341694?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was tracking that this isn't for new positions, it's not for raises or anything that have been given after the approval over a year ago.
Correct.
From Budget Board. Yeah. Okay, go ahead, thank you.
Sorry. Okay, so on the next few pages I wanted to give you an update on our M&O situation. I'm going to be short this year in maintenance and operations. And utilities alone, the first page that I've given you, this first block at the top is estimated of how much just my utilities are gonna cost between now and the end of the year. The second block is what I have left in M&O. In detention, you'll notice after I spend what I've estimated I may need in utilities, in a conservative estimate, I only have almost $16,000 left to cover me for the next 4 months. Which in detention, we can spend $16,000 in a week, depending on what happens. So now obviously I'm not out of money right now because these are just estimated if I pay utilities at the highest amount. The rest of this page and the back of this page is just showing you how I estimated those. So if that's not interesting to you, you can skip that. But I just wanted you to see how I'm forecasting and how I'm looking at utilities. Just through January, we've spent almost $30,000 more than we had at this point last year. If utilities are as high as they could be based on our averages so far this year, I could spend up to $66,000 more this year just on utilities alone. So I know it's not just a me problem. I know they're having problems all across the county with utilities, but it's hitting especially hard at juvenile. And also because my budgets are split, so it kind of constricts me from being able to move around. But utilities especially are really eating my lunch this year in our M&O budget. So the rest of that is just to show you how I estimated those utilities if you have questions about the numbers. The last page, I pulled our top 10 or 12 biggest spending items for the year. I've also spent just in those categories alone $63,000 plus more than I had at this point last year. If you look at the last column in that box, we should have utilized about 66% compared to last year. 8 out of the 12 months, we should have utilized roughly 66% of the budget. We're at 123% in maintenance and operations. We're at 88% in trash, 84% in food. Laundry supplies is 147%. Part of that's just because the price of it's gone up. It's a mix of the prices of everything have gone up. You'll see my food cost is skyrocketed. Part of it's the price, part of it also is count. In July, our average count was like in the 40s. Every month since July, we've hit over 70 residents for at least 1 or 2 days.
Does that account for this bedding as well?
Yeah, so part of bedding, that's a little skewed. I didn't want you to see that and, panic, because it's 5,000% increase, but we don't have to buy bedding every year. But as the bedding goes down, like the quality of it goes down, we have to replenish. And so this was just a year that we had to replenish several mattresses. And we're used to that kind of going up and down. Every 2 to 3 years, we got to do a sweep and replace. And then we replace as we're going. But last year, we only had to spend like $40 because we had just replaced all of them. This year, we've had to spend already about $2,000. So this is just a year where we're having to replenish there.
So you're saying that you were over the 60 or so folks that OJA wants to contract for?
So today we looked at it, and 50% of our population was YO or murder ones. The problem is we are now at the point where we only house kids that are a danger to themselves or others. We're no longer taking the kids that just stole grandma's car and are, got in trouble and are in detention for a couple days. We've been at the point several times in the past couple months where we've had to say, okay, of these high level offenders, who do you want to let out when I get 3 murder ones in this weekend, if I do? Because we're at the point where when we hit 70, 72 beds, not only does Bruce's blood pressure rise through the roof because we don't have any way to house or move them around, but we're picking up kids 3 and 4 at a time. So it'll be nothing for us to have. I mean, we've gotten murder 1 kids just about every week. We'll have 1 or 2, and they sit for years.
Yeah, we received 3 murder 1 kids in a matter of, I think, a week and a half.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
If you could give me your averages, your every month,
Yeah, absolutely.
what you have. You guys were sending that to me for a while, but
Oh,
for
sure.
contract
Yeah.
negotiations, because we're way over what they're.
Yeah, I think
contract.
we're contracted for 50 beds.
Well, we're not contracted right
Or we're not contracted, but licensed, I guess.
Allegedly.
now. No, we're licensed
We're licensed,
for
but-
the full amount.
Yeah, you're right, but
The 80.
Yeah, it's like
contract.
82.
Yes.
They say 50.
We settled.
Yeah.
for-
Right.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, yeah, we've been well over 50 for a long time.
Okay.
We're averaging, because depending on court and then moving around, we average in the 60s. But we've hit over 70 every month since July. So it just, when we get an influx, then especially going into a weekend or going into something like that. So that's part of the reason why laundry supplies, inmate clothing, inmate toiletries are so much higher. But part of it also is just the cost. I mean, I know you guys have seen it when you go to Target, and what used to, get you a basket full of stuff for $50 now costs you $300. So that's kind of where we're at juvenile as well. Today, based on my cost last year, between these categories and utilities, I've spent almost $100,000 more than what I spent last year. So it's just, I wish I could say we've got to do these really cool projects, and that's why we don't have, M&O to finish us throughout the year, but it's just our regular operating costs that are absolutely eating our lunch.
Well, prior to you guys housing the YOs, your average stay was, I'm assuming, was significantly lower than what it is now,
Yes.
because with the more YOs,
Mm-hmm.
it takes longer to get through that process.
Absolutely.
So
We have kids now that we received in November of 21 when they came over.
Yeah.
And we still have.
and before that, you may have 1 or 2 that were.
Significant like
Yeah, and what we've experienced, that their court process is just as long as the adults.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because of them in charge of murder 1 or some high level offense.
Yeah.
So they're in for a while.
So I just wanted to give you guys an update. Again, with M&O as well, I won't have to have the funding until we get to the end of the year. So I was hoping to come back, next month and then come back in May and give you guys a closer amount, because like salaries, I came in less than we originally estimated. So I'm hoping it will be less than that, but I didn't want to wait until May and be like, hey guys, good morning, please give me this amount of money without giving you a heads up. So that's kind of where we're at.
But you're in a position right now without any recommendation for transfer. You guys can still make it.
Sure.
We can rock along and kind of see, because those numbers may go up. You may need more, you may need less.
Absolutely.
So, okay.
Question, is cost to house the more significant offenders more? Or are they, is whatever the facility or the staffing or the programming the same regardless of the offense? It's just that
cost to house is roughly the same. It's just that they're with us longer.
I get that part.
And then we have to have more staffing. So like higher level offenders, I've got to have more staff.
That
So
was what I was
overall
asking.
overhead is higher
Mhm.
with higher level offenders, but as far as like the day-to-day costs,
Same.
they get same amount of food, same amount of
Sure.
snacks. Now we have been, just recently, we've noticed the behavioral mental health of some of the kids who are Murder One kids or who are with us for a substantial amount of time has really taken its toll.
Mhm.
And so we are about to engage in our ARPA contract with Turnkey to be able to give them 24-hour a day mental health and wellness benefits. We've just recently had an issue where we had to send one kid out several times to the hospital and back and forth. So those costs can add up just because they're with us longer. We're not a temporary housing facility like we were before. Now we're home to these kids for the next sometimes 2-3 years. So that comes with a lot of different medical needs and behavioral needs that we never really had to deal with before. So we are navigating that. The cost of those are a little higher, but we haven't really been able to get a grasp on because we'll have one kid who never needs additional care, and then we'll have another kid who I've been bringing in snacks, sometimes trying to get him to eat something. We had a kid who went on hunger strike for a while, and just so we're going completely out of the box as much as we can to try and meet the needs of the kids to get them help. So just depends on the day.
Well, and I think one thing, and Bruce, I know we had some conversations about this on the front end of you guys receiving the YOs, and when we were looking at the additional staff needed for that, was the concern was with the YOs and that population. They were going to get into a lot of classification issues, co-defendants, gang issues, and so where they would maybe only have 3 units or pods or whatever open, and they have the number of kids that they used to just have 3, they may have to have an additional 1 or 2 open and staffing for that, just because they have to have them spread out a
Right,
little bit
that's
more.
part of
because
what I was asking,
yeah.
does that create
Is that-
staffing
has
issue
that-
that's a cost issue?
We talked about that, and we thought that was going to be the case. Has that come to fruition?
Yeah, so we used to manage this, using 5 units, and we used to shut down 2. But since November of 21, we've had all 7 open
Every day.
every day. And we've even seen more assaults on staff. I mean, and that just comes with the nature of getting more violent offenders inside detention. So, all of that.
Yeah. Well, if you have 70 or more in there anyway, you don't have any room to close stuff down.
Well, and then because we always have a few females. So that gets really hard because the other empty beds in that unit, we can't utilize for males. So in reality, even though we may only have 71 kids, I've only got 2 male beds left because I got half a unit open of females that I can't put males in. So that's when Bruce really starts getting antsy, especially going into a weekend. If we're at 69, 70, he's on the phone going, you guys gotta get some of these kids out of here, or we need a list of who's leaving when a Murder One walks in the door. Because if a kid's just in on a sanction or something like that, and the courts have been really great about working with us with that, and they've been doing a really great job about helping us, navigate through that. And if this happens, the kid who's only on a weekend sanction because he ran away from placement, we may need to do something else with him, obviously, if a Murder One comes in the door. So they've been really great at that. But yeah, it's a whole different world sitting at 50 kids than sitting at 70. It's just, they're in there, and then you have a lot limited availability to move them around because we only have so many beds. So then if they're fighting with each other, Bruce does a great job at somehow working magic between those units into moving kids around and keeping them from just getting after each other, because they also, when you limit the availability of empty beds, you limit your ability to be able to separate them. So it gets kind of dicey when we get that high a population.
And your food cost, is it like a cost per kid? I mean, like for example, we had the jail, there was a ratings, the contract was X amount.
They don't have a contract for a food provider.
We're
They purchase the food.
on staff. We utilize as many commodities and like donations basically as we can. We do get a lot of fresh produce and things like that on commodities, but obviously with the economy, we no longer have. So we have a contract that we utilize for food items, most of our vendors have said I can no longer meet those prices. And so we're just at the mercy of, I mean, just like everyone else is, we're paying $7 a carton of eggs, just like everybody else. So, because literally all of our vendors have said, I get that we quoted all these at that price, but you can go ahead and take me off that contract because I can no longer meet those prices based on what I have. So we have a price per meal. And then we have to meet state child nutrition guidelines and things like that, but we don't have a range because we do it all on staff. So we don't have like a set, like each meal can only cost X amount. We do the best that we can.
And that may be something to look at in the future, is looking at a contract like what we have down at the jail, like you guys had, where it was a 3% increase each year or whatever, and that kind of prepares you a little bit more.
Exactly, we said that as long as the population was between X and X, it was
Mhm.
same price.
Yeah, and then you just had the cost escalator each year, like 2.5 or 3%.
But cutting out the middleman, you probably saving money.
Yeah.
Sure.
But you can wait for the money for now.
Sure.
So we can keep track.
Yeah, but I'm certainly going to need it. We will be out of M&L, especially in detention. Like right now, I put a moratorium on spending. I got 2 cadet classes running around without uniforms because I didn't want to overextend myself before coming here and saying like, based on these costs, like I'm out. So we won't need it until later, but I will absolutely need some help.
So if we don't transfer money now, will you be able to get the uniforms for the cadets?
Sure,
and do-
absolutely.
okay.
Just
'Cause
then
you
when
need
it
to-
comes,
you need
yeah,
to-
because I haven't paid these utilities through June. So, but just then when we get into May, especially June, that's when I'll be too close.
Okay. Alrighty.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Any other questions?
What do we currently have on the watch list for juvenile?
Just salary, 75,000 for bureau and detention, 250. Oh, I take that back, an emergency evacuation road.
Do we want to add $100,000 onto the watch list?
Yeah.
Somebody want to make a motion for?
I think we were on 5 first, we haven't finished 5. She
You're
went
right,
ahead and briefed
you're right.
us on both.
Oh, sorry.
We
Yep.
finished 5 and then
Is there a motion on 5?
motion to receive the update.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. On item 6, is there a motion?
Motion to add 100,000 to the watch list for juvenile bureau maintenance.
The motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Good. Chris, you want to make a motion to receive the update on that as well?
Oh, sure. Motion to receive an update from juvenile, both on bureau and detention.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Item 7, discussion and possible, well, before we get to that, let's go ahead and jump to item number 9. 7 and 8 will be kind of related. Item 9, discussion and possible action regarding presentation on the state of the county and 2023 values. Mr. Morrison?
I just want to take this time to kind of give everybody a little bit of update of what we're seeing. I know we're a little earlier than normal, but we also have some new members on the board, and I kind of wanted to get you accustomed to some of the information that we provide. Blake will be providing a presentation, and we've got a few updates on the slide that we're going to introduce. So maybe make a motion to accept the update report that he's getting ready to present.
Okay, this is, what he's going to present is different than what was attached.
No, there's a couple slides that did not transfer over correctly, and you will see on here how they didn't transfer, so I just printed off
Gotcha.
the corrected
So you'll provide the clerk
I
with
just
the
gave-
action, okay.
of just these corrected slides is what I provided.
All right. Is there a motion to receive the documents?
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
As Mike said, we just wanted to talk about what was going on in the county, and we don't have updated numbers, so I don't have projections yet, but those will come first week of April, roughly, unless Micah comes and says I need them earlier, then
I do.
we'll do what we can at that time to get the best projections we can. But the assessor's office provides, if you've been on the board, you hear this every year, but the assessor's office provides 82% of the funding of the county general fund. Last year, these are tax roll values from last year, and the market value was just over $80 billion in Oklahoma County, which is a 12.6% increase from 2021. The taxable market, which is what we actually collect the taxes on, was only a little over 71 billion, which is only up 6.9%, which you can tell there's a big difference in the two there because of the 3 and 5% cap limitations, 3% on the homestead and 5% on any other non-homestead property. So the market is exceeding what we get by quite a bit. So, and if it keeps doing what it's doing, it's just that the spread is gonna get larger and larger. The uncaptured assessed number, that is the amount between market and taxable that we are not. So we have over $1 billion of assessed that is not because of the limitations and the exemptions, senior freeze exemptions, disabled veterans exemptions. Which is good, but we have a spread. So even if values stay the same or drop some, there will still be some increase, but there's a rather large spread there. So go to the next. This is one of the slides.
That slide though before shows what we kind of talked about. Go back up to it just real quick. The taxable market value, the increase was 6.9%. What was our COLA last year because of inflation? It was 8.5%. So when we're only collecting around or under inflation, it's hard to grow and provide resources to new and additional things because we're just trying to keep up with what we've been doing.
Yeah,
Okay,
market's
it's
outpacing the
Right.
taxable limitation.
Yep.
And this year we've already sent out quite a few notices. We're at residential, I think we've already sent out about 273,000 notices. We're about to send out around commercial, around 14,000 notices. So those are only sent out if the value increases. If it stays the same or decreases, they will not be sent out. So that shows we are still seeing an increase, but some of that may just be 3 and 5% between the taxable and market. Market could have stayed the same on a lot. If it goes up 3% or 5%, they will receive a notice. So that is good. We're at least seeing that. This is one of the slides in the handout. As you can see, it kind of got messed up there. But this is a picture of a dollar bill that shows what percentages go where the tax dollar breakdown. What 57% go to, a little over 57% go to the schools. And this is based off 2022 numbers. The county receives a little over 9%. And then you've got the city county library, city county health, the Voc Tech technology centers, cities and towns, and the TIF portion over here. And that's just a breakdown so everyone understands where it's all going. And this is the last slide in here. These are all the deed transfers that occurred in 2022. There was just over 31,800. So this could be any deed transaction, could be a name change, could be just transferring, removing a name off the property or selling of the property. But we had just over almost 32,000 transactions, and that's where they are throughout the county. So the more where the red is bigger, that means in that area there were quite a few. So they could be new plats or new additions where there were quite a few sales. This is just to let y'all know some of the legislative issues that are going on that could affect collections. One of the big ones we're working on is a change citation, which we've been working with Senator Stanley on to try to get, which takes aerial imagery, which we have gotten used, thanks to you all on the budget board for approving that. And it takes our sketch that we have and places it over to aerial imagery and lets us know whether we're got everything picked up, not to make sure everything's accounted for, and we can. So we're working on, this is a bill that will let us use that for reevaluation, so that if it's a house in our it shows up as green if it's good and everything matches up. We're trying to get it to where if it's green, that means we don't have to physically go out to the property to try to save, so we can save money on mileage and sending people out. We can do it, something we can do from our desktop and know that nothing has changed. That would be a get changed in the statute so that we don't have to physically inspect them every 4 years. And hopefully that way we can focus more on other things that will raise the value instead of properties that are not changing where we'll not see anything. There are, I believe there's 4 different senior freeze bills out there right now. One is trying to make it to where there's no income limit. One is doubling the HUD income limit. And one has a number if it's a single or a $75,000 for a single, $150,000 for a double, both incomes. So, and as of right now, it's just at the HUD income limit, which this year is $85,300. So, if that were to go into effect, that could really put a hit on the budget. You won't see it so much right away, but once they're all filed, previous years after, you will not see any of those increases that we have been seeing. So that could really take a hit on us if any of those get passed. There's a few disabled American veterans ones. There's one of them, as of now, if you're 100% disabled, you get 100% relief on property taxes. There's one that keeps that intact, and then if you're 70% or above disabled, anything above 70%, then you get 50% relief on your property taxes. There's really no way for us to do a impact study to know how much that would affect us, but I would think how many is it? 10? I mean, we go up, we're over 5,000 right now.
Properties now, which is about 13 million in tax money.
13 million tax dollars, and it's going up more and more a year. I feel like it goes up in a week almost, people coming in. So we're steadily increasing, and that would just put a lot more. And then another big one is documentary tax stamps. There's lots of evading those. When they file their deeds, they're saying they're claiming certain exemptions that they really shouldn't be. So the clerk's office is not able to collect those doc stamps. And there's the penalty right now is like $1,000. Is that what it is, $1,000? Mm-hmm. Some of the new laws they're trying to make, I think it's $10,000. So some of them, it's easier to just pay the fine if they already get caught. But that's one. In that too, we do not see the sales price if they do not file doc stamps. So it hurts us to not know exactly what it sold for so that we can reflect that on current sales. And there's lots of, they're claiming certain percentages as intangible property. So they're saying it's 85-15 for certain types of properties, like an apartment complex. You only pay doc stamps on 85% of the sales price because the other 15 does not need to, which there is no apartments. You should not see that, but that's been floating around, and we've got calls from attorneys and other saying that they are pushing that. So that's why there's hopefully some of this legislation gets passed to where more stuff has to be filed when deeds are filed. So that's pretty much it on the legislation. For our tax increment financing districts, last year we had 18 TIFs in the county. The first Oklahoma City TIF expired, which was the OU Medical Center TIF, and it expired in June of last year. That did not bring a whole lot into the county, just so you know, budget-wise. I think it was about 200,000 assessed is the increment that came over to the county, which county dollars, $2,000 extra in the general fund for that TIF expiring. So that wasn't. Next year, their City of War Acres does have 3 new TIFs that will be starting. And they're not very large TIFs, but it is still 3 new TIFs. And I know Oklahoma City has quite a few in the works.
Almost a dozen, I think,
Yeah,
based
there's-
on our discussion.
Quite a few in the works. That's all. And
Just a dozen.
yeah. So there's some of the new projects going on. There's last year on the tax roll, the first, the Omni would have went on. That's in the TIF. The new Amazon building, and there had been a lot of personal property with that, so that was an increase. This is a new project just over there off I-235, the Convergence project, which it's already under construction. It's over $170 million development. Unfortunately, that's in a TIF, so the value that the county will see is we're already realizing it. Anything, once it's completed, we will not see an increase on that. Another big one is the Oak, which is at Northwest Expressway and Pennsylvania, about 10 square miles. So that is one that will be a large development. No TIF I've heard of so far on that one, but fingers crossed. The Okana TIF, it will be a TIF too. At the time, it was a $300 million project. I'm sure the costs have went up on that now. And they're set to receive $102 million in TIF financing for that. So, and that's the one that is next to the First Americans Museum, just south of the river. This is a proposed one that's come up. This is next to the U-Haul down there in Bricktown, the parking lot where it's the apartment towers and hotels. That's proposed development. It passed in one of the committees it has not went before the city council yet, but it's passed everything else. And this is to start a TIF on this one. And it's a $400 million development, and they're requesting $215 million in TIF financing. And so if that approves city council, then I'm sure that project will get underway. As of now, it's 2 apartment towers and 1 hotel tower. With it said, depending on leasing, there's plans to add a 3rd hotel tower. I mean, not 3rd apartment tower if leasing goes well, which at that time I'm sure they would ask for more money to build that.
Wasn't there an agreement with Omni when they did the TIF for that there would not be another TIF for a hotel?
What I've read is the TIF money is just for the 2 apartment towers, and the hotel tower is not receiving any TIF money. That's what I've read.
Okay.
So there was that agreement, yes.
Okay.
Some other projects around. I know Paycom is building a new office, so that'll be some. If they ever start Strawberry Fields, a big development to the west of Scissortail Park. I don't know when a lot of it's cleared out and bought, but they have not started. And that will be a TIF as well once it starts. But those are pretty much large, big developments that are going on. If there's any questions, or I can answer those from now on, but we just wanted to have everyone idea of what's going on numbers wise and where we're at. And to kind of show you, like you stated, the way it's growing, with the cap limitations and new legislation, it could hinder us in funding.
That's what we're kind of seeing. All these major projects seem to be located in TIF. And in fact, there's been some restructuring or talk of restructuring current TIFs downtown, which will grab those properties along 235 on the westbound side and bring those over into the Innovation District, which will present those properties into another 25-year TIF, making them almost a 50-year TIF on those properties. So we're seeing a lot of that restructure. A lot of those things are being moving parts. The city's really good at leveraging properties to make that investment and drag it out for them as long as possible to use that money in other projects. And that's some of the concern that I've stood here and made that statement before, that a lot of these major developments are in these areas. There is a piece of legislation that's out there right now. I don't know how far it will move, but it will give some options for the ad valorem entities to perhaps do an opt-out of feature, so that if the entity decides not to support the TIF, they will receive property tax assessment money in regard to statute. I don't know if that will go anywhere or not, but right now I don't think that the city has control of the bus. And I know that in our budgets, we're kind of fighting for everything we can possibly get. And I think last year we probably lost about $3.5 million in general fund money to TIF. That's just going to continue to grow as these projects come on the tax roll. So I know that there's some concerns. I know we've talked with some of the commissioners about some of those concerns. We just want to make everybody aware of what we see, so that when you see these projects come on, that you're not thinking that, wow, these are big projects. These are things that are going to be drivers for us for years to come. We're going to receive revenues for those things. Not necessarily. The thing that we pushed for as well for the talks with the city is we see these TIFs being developed with an idea that there is a no sales tax TIF in those, because they're creating these TIFs. They're asking the county to be all in for all that money, but they're also collecting their sales tax revenue. So they're building all of these things with retail that they're receiving increment money from us from form assessments, and they're receiving sales tax money on top of it. So, but there's only two sales tax TIFs in the county. One is the Skirvin, and the other one's going to be in the Innovation District for just 2 little parcels, not the entire compasses. So very small pieces that the sales tax TIF will collect on. But that's some of our concerns. I'm sure we'll have some more information whenever we drop numbers to you, because we're still right in the middle of tax season and trying to push numbers. But I just want to take a moment and appreciate Blake presenting everything so that you have a better understanding of what we're up against, so that as we move forward, you're seeing things outpace what we can collect, both market-wise and as well as our consumptions. I mean, we're starting to see, if you do any postage, you're going to start seeing giant numbers in your postal rates change. We see that already. And I just think that as we start to prepare our budgets, we're all going to start seeing those things. Just like with juvenile, things cost more. So, yep. I'm not trying to paint a bleak picture, but
Well, it's realistic.
it is realistic. And that's why I just want to make sure that everybody understands these things, so that you can go back and talk with your official and understand those things, because I do think that the better knowledge we have, the better decisions we can make. That's all what's about.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blake.
Motion to receive report.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to receive the report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Let's jump back up to 7. Discussion possible action regarding the schedule for departmental meetings to go over FY 23-24 estimate of needs. Is there?
I think I'd start with the clerk's office, how much time they need to be ready before we do those.
So based on last year's schedule, we had 3 day parts. We had a Tuesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, and a Friday morning. And we used it all, I think. So
Do you recall
what dates?
when we
Yeah,
did that?
and
Beginning of April, April 4.
Yeah, so I adjusted the dates, so it would be Tuesday the 4th, Wednesday the 5th, and Friday the 7th, if that would be the same schedule as last year, but I don't know if that works for everybody. And the due date for the estimates of needs is Friday, but we haven't received many yet, so.
Friday will be busy.
Yes. And it
Everyone's
takes
crunching
it
numbers.
takes time to prepare everything for that.
So you're suggesting Tuesday morning, the 4th April, Thursday afternoon, the 6th?
whatever works for all of us. I think we should
And that's
plan
seven.
for 3 day parts.
The
Good
seventh
Friday.
is a holiday.
Oh, yeah, that
Four,
would-
5, and 6.
4, 5, and
Yeah.
6.
That's fine. And I don't know if you wanna do mornings or afternoons or,
I like mornings, but those days,
we need to see if the room is available.
I like mornings as well.
Sounds good to me.
We will have BOEs on some of those,
Yeah, so we need to
on the
see.
mornings, they meet at 10.
right?
Do you know, for BOE, would they have a problem meeting in the BOCC room? And would it be conducive for them to do it? I mean, we could always move over there, but it's easier for us to have discussions like this, you know, in this setup versus being over in BOCC. But I don't know if BOE, I don't want to kick them out of their room, but if,
The afternoon's okay.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
mean, they should, I mean, they're listening to, you know, the taxpayers and, you know, they've got their packet of information. So we can set their tablets and stuff up over there.
I think they're hearing, maybe up to 3 per day.
Right now,
So
but that may increase by
change.
April timeframe though.
but it would still, they would have room to sit up there and do their stuff, and then the taxpayer can be like at the podium where other people, okay. Do you think that would work?
We can make it work.
Okay. What time in the mornings are we think starting at 9?
Like 9 to noon?
And the departments are not, that's not the order. We'll send out emails to the departments to
Do what?
see when they can do it and present it, so. This is just from last year.
We're looking at April 4, 5, 6, 9, and 12.
You also not calendar invites for that.
Yeah.
Last year, I think we did like the outside departments that come in first or last, and then whoever is on camp here in the building, we can pull in if we have time.
Okay. Yeah, so 4, 5, and the 4th, 5th, and 6th from 9. That's all you need to know for scheduling the meetings. It'll be at 9 a.m. Our intent will be to get done by noon on those days. But if something happens and we start seeing that we're lagging behind and we need to go into an afternoon and
Recess.
everybody's available, we can always recess for lunch and then come back in. So,
And then we also have the regular PET meeting the week after, so in case.
That'll be good.
all right. Is there a motion to set those meetings for the 4th, 5th, and 6th at 9 a.m.?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And Micah, you'll work with everybody to get a good schedule time for them, right?
Correct.
All right, item 8, discussion possible action regarding policies, processes, and procedures related to FY 23-24 budget reviews and recommendations. Is there anything anybody wants to talk about yet? If not, as we go through it, we'll keep this agenda item on all of our meetings, please, moving forward through the budget cycle. That way, if anybody, Dawn, just so you know, this item, we have it on here. That way, if you have any suggestions about, hey, let's do this during this budget cycle or whatever, we can discuss those processes and make changes as we go.
Good, thank you.
So, all right. Is there any citizens that want to participate? Seeing none, board comments, District 2,
No thanks.
District 3?
No.
Clerk, treasurer,
No thank you.
court clerk? Assessor,
Welcome to our new members.
sure. None for me. Is there any new business? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Yes, I saw him just
So
before he
what
came
would-
out. I'm gonna say,
What do you think the city would say if we said, you know what?